Right now, there's a move happening in Washington that could change the way immigration works in the US, and most people won't even realize it until it hits them in real life. Not when it's trending, not when someone posts a clip. I mean, when it shows up as delays, tougher screenings, faster removals, new rules at the border, and a totally different risk level for anyone who's waiting on a case, planning a trip, or trying to keep their family together. And here's the scary part. The House just pushed forward multiple immigration bills, and while everyone is arguing online about the headline, the details are where the real impact is hiding. If you're an immigrant, a student, a worker, someone married to a US citizen, someone waiting for asylum, or even someone who just has a pending USCIS application, stay with me because the Texas update connects to this in a way most people are missing. And the third bill, yes, the one that barely gets discussed, is the one that can quietly reshape what normal looks like at the border. So, what actually happened? In the US House of Representatives, lawmakers moved immigration legislation forward. Three bills being passed is being talked about as a major immigration reform moment. When the House passes bills like this, it doesn't automatically mean law tomorrow morning, but it does mean something very real. The direction of policy is being set publicly, and pressure gets created on the Senate to respond, negotiate, block it, or write a competing plan. That House to Senate pipeline is where the game gets serious, because that's where changes can actually become law. Now, I want to be careful with wording here. House passed does not equal you're approved or you're denied, but it absolutely can change what's coming next. It can change priorities. It can change enforcement. It can change what gets funded. It can change what gets negotiated into a final package. And when people hear immigration bills, they immediately think, okay, is it a path to citizenship? But most of the time, these bills are not emotional feel-good bills. They are operational bills. They are enforcement bills. They are asylum process bills. They are border control bills. They are verification bills, the kind of bills that don't sound dramatic until they touch your life. One of the most well-known House-passed border bills in recent history is the Secure the Border Act, known as H.R. 2 on Congress.gov. That bill includes things like asylum-related changes, broader expedited removal and detention requirements, parole limits, and mandatory electronic employment verification. Again, this is an example of the kind of content that shows what direction House Republicans have been pushing on border policy: tighter asylum standards, more enforcement tools, and bigger structural changes to processing. Source. So why are these bills such a big deal right now? Because immigration is not just law. It's also timing. It's also politics. It's also budgets. It's also court fights. And right now, the system is already under pressure. Cases are backlogged, people are confused, and states like Texas are pushing the envelope with state-level enforcement ideas, which is where the biggest conflict is happening. Who controls immigration enforcement? States or the federal government? And that's where Texas enters this story in a way that could affect people far beyond Texas. Let's talk about the Texas update. Texas has been trying to pass and enforce aggressive immigration enforcement policies at the state level, and one of the most high-profile examples is SB 4. The idea, in simple words, is allowing state authorities to arrest and prosecute people suspected of crossing the border illegally into Texas, and even allowing state judges to order people to leave. That's not a small tweak. That's a huge shift in enforcement power. But here's the reality check. Federal courts have been battling this. Reuters reported that a divided U.S. appeals court blocked enforcement of Texas SB 4, with the court reasoning that immigration enforcement is primarily a federal power and that state-level immigration crime frameworks can interfere with the federal system. Texas officials said they would continue to fight it. That means the story is not over. It's moving through the courts, and that uncertainty creates real fear on the ground. Source now connect the dots. When the House passes multiple immigration bills at the same time, it sends a message. We want stronger federal enforcement or structural changes. When Texas pushes something like SB 4, it sends another message. If the federal government doesn't do it our way, we will try to do it ourselves. And the courts are basically standing in the middle saying, hold on, this might not be constitutional the way you're doing it. So for immigrants, border applicants, and families, what does that mean? It means the environment becomes more unpredictable. The same person can be treated differently, depending on whether the day's headline is about Congress, about Texas, about a court ruling, or about a policy memo. It means people feel like the rules are shifting under their feet, even when they're trying to do things legally. And that's why you have to pay attention to these House bills even before the Senate votes, because the Senate is the next battlefield. What could happen next in the Senate? Three realistic paths. One, the Senate ignores them. That happens a lot. Bills get passed in the House and die in the Senate. Two, the Senate blocks them and forces a negotiation. That's where the House bills become leverage, a starting position, not the final product. Three, the Senate takes pieces from them, maybe border funding, maybe enforcement provisions, maybe asylum process changes, and merges them into a must-pass bill, like a budget measure. And when that happens, you don't get a clean headline like immigration reform passed. You get a complex package where immigration changes are buried inside funding, deadlines, and compromises. And by the time most people realize it, it's already signed, already funded, already operational. This is why you'll hear me say something that's going to sound intense, but it's true. Immigration changes don't always arrive like a thunderstorm. Sometimes they arrive like a silent software update. You wake up, and the process feels different. Now let's talk about who gets affected the most. If you're an asylum seeker or planning to request asylum, anything related to asylum standards, credible fear screening, expedited removal, detention, or safe third country style logic can change the stakes massively. Even if a bill doesn't pass exactly as written, it can push agencies to tighten interpretations, and it can influence future rulemaking and enforcement priorities. The House bill example on congress.gov shows how detailed and wide-ranging these proposals can be, including changes to asylum thresholds and procedures. Source: if you're a family-based immigrant, spouse, parent, child, your first thought might be, this doesn't touch me. But that's not always true. When enforcement becomes more aggressive, scrutiny can increase across the board. People start worrying about travel, about interviews, about requests for evidence, about how minor issues get treated. Even legal immigrants can feel pressure when the whole environment is tense. If you're a worker, H-1B, H-2A, L-1, OPT, STEM OPT, or employment-based green card, there's another layer: workplace verification and enforcement. When lawmakers push systems like mandatory electronic verification, or when policy conversation shifts toward work authorization crackdown, employers become more cautious. And when employers become cautious, your life changes. Job offers get delayed, sponsorship gets paused, renewals become stressful. If you're someone living in Texas or near the border, or even traveling through Texas, the fear factor becomes higher because of state-level enforcement attempts like SB4. Even though Reuters reported enforcement was blocked, the fact that it's being fought, appealed, and debated creates uncertainty. People don't live based on court footnotes. They live based on what they think might happen when they get pulled over, when they get questioned, or when they encounter law enforcement. Source: now I want to add something important for trust. A lot of YouTube channels talk about new law passed, and then they jump straight into fear. I'm not doing that. I'm telling you exactly what matters. House passage is a major step, but not the final step. Texas actions can be blocked by courts, but still affect reality on the ground. And the only way to stay safe is to track official information too, because rumor-based immigration decisions can destroy lives. For official updates, USCIS posts news releases and policy-related updates on its website. Even when the topic isn't directly about a House bill, it gives you a real sense of what the agency is focusing on and what programs are changing. That's where you check, not just TikTok clips. Source: and for legislation text and status, congress.gov is one of the cleanest sources because it shows what the bill actually says and where it stands. If someone claims this bill means automatic green cards, but congress.gov shows it's enforcement focused, you'll know the truth instantly. Source: Now, here's the part I need you to hear carefully. Even if the Senate does nothing tomorrow, the House passing multiple immigration bills changes the conversation in a way that can hit you immediately. How? Because agencies react to pressure, states react to headlines, employers react to risk, and people at the border react to policy signals. That's why you might see changes in how strict questioning is, how long processing takes, or how cautious people become, even before a law changes. And the third bill, this is where I want you to stay with me, because there's always a third bill problem in politics. The first bill gets the headlines, the second bill gets the debate, the third bill quietly changes a process. Quiet process changes are the ones that create high denial rates, high delays, and high confusion because people don't emotionally react to them until they suffer from them. So, what should viewers do immediately? First, do not panic post. Panic spreads misinformation. If you're in the middle of a case, panic decisions can cause real damage. Missing deadlines, filing wrong forms, traveling at the wrong time, or trusting the wrong person. Second, verify your personal situation. If you have a pending USCIS application, check your receipt notices, your deadlines, and make sure your address and contact information are correct. Use official USCIS resources for updates and notices, not forwarded screenshots. Source. Third, if you are in Texas or traveling through Texas and you are in any kind of immigration sensitive situation, understand that SB4 is being fought in courts and has been blocked from enforcement per Reuters reporting, but that doesn't remove stress and confusion on the ground. If you ever feel unsure, speak to a licensed immigration attorney before taking risks. Source fourth. If your story involves asylum or the border, do not assume the system will be the same next month. When bills like H.R. 2 and similar proposals are pushed, it signals that asylum standards and border processing are politically targeted. Your planning needs to factor that reality. Source. Now, let me be honest about the emotional side. For a lot of families, immigration is not politics. It's not a debate. It's a child waiting to reunite with a parent. It's a spouse missing birthdays. It's a worker scared to lose status. It's a student who did everything right, but still feels uncertain. That's why these House bills and Texas enforcement fights hit so hard, because they don't feel like news. They feel like someone is playing tug of war with your life. And if you're watching this thinking, I'm safe because I'm legal, I understand why you'd want to believe that. But legal doesn't automatically mean stress-free. Legal immigrants get stuck in delays. Legal travelers get questioned. Legal workers get caught in policy shifts. The environment impacts everyone. Now here's the key final piece. Why this moment is high stakes. Because immigration is becoming the center of budget fights too. Reuters reporting around DHS funding debates shows how immigration enforcement and guardrails are being argued inside Congress. When immigration becomes tied to funding, it becomes tied to deadlines, shutdown threats, and leverage politics, and that's when sudden changes can happen fast. Source. So yes, the House passing 3 immigration bills is big, but the bigger story is what comes next. Whether the Senate negotiates, blocks, or merges these ideas into something that becomes law, and whether Texas continues pushing state-level enforcement frameworks like SB4, which courts have blocked but the state wants to keep fighting. Now, I want to ask you something. Seriously, where are you watching from? Are you in Texas? Are you waiting on an asylum process? Are you on OPT, H-1B, or family-based petition? Are you planning to travel? Because your situation changes what you should pay attention to first. If you want, I can also make a follow-up script that is laser-focused on just one group, like asylum applicants or H-1B OPT workers or family-based immigration, because each group has different risks and different next steps. Before you go, do 3 things for me. Like this video because it helps more people see it before they make a mistake based on rumors. Subscribe because these updates move fast, and when the Senate reacts, you need to know the same day, not 2 weeks later, and comment your situation. Just tell me Texas, asylum, family petition, student, or work visa, and I'll prioritize the next update based on what most of you are going through right now. And please share this video with one person who needs it, because the scariest part about immigration news isn't the bill itself, it's finding out too late.